All right, Monday was an off day. That means we got some stuff to talk about. We're going to do a little hot or not, who's playing well, who isn't. We got to talk Daulton Varsho as he is coming back to the team. Thank God. Any help is help. And of course, the series preview. A lot to get into on today's episode of Locked On Blue Jays.
You are Locked On Blue Jays, your daily Toronto Blue Jays podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome back to Locked On Blue Jays. Thank you for making Locked On Blue Jays your first listen every day. We are free and available wherever you get your podcasts and on YouTube. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Did you know your Fire TV is also an Xbox? Turn any TV into your gaming and entertainment hub with Fire TV Stick 4K devices. No console required. Head to Amazon.com/Fire TV Locked On to get started. Xbox Game Pass and limited subscriptions and compatible controller required. As always, I'm Braden Iwasco. He's Carter First. You can find us on Twitter, Braden5 Iwasco. Carter First too as well on our main Twitter, I guess, Locked On Jays as well. You can follow us on Instagram and TikTok at Locked On Blue Jays. And if you're new here to YouTube or you're listening anywhere else, make sure you go over to the YouTube page, you hit the subscription. It does help us out. It's free. Please do it. We're trying to grow this channel. And the more that you guys that subscribe really does help us out. And honestly, it costs nothing. It's not going to, it's not going to change your life one way or another. You're just going to see more of us. And maybe that's a good thing. I don't know. Anyway, hit that sub button. Lots to get into today. Me and Carter are going to play a little game of hot or not. And we're not teenage girls. So it's more going to be focused on the baseball than it is of how Bichette's hair is on any given particular day. Also, we're going to talk Daulton Varsho as he is coming back to the squad, 99% sure anyway. And the series preview against the Boston Red Sox. A lot to talk about today. As always, I feel like I say that every day, but it's just, there's, I don't know. You can sit here and talk about Blue Jays for, I feel like 2 hours, but, we try to keep it condensed, try to keep it good for you guys, just so you guys can digest all the information in like a half hour, 35-minute, sometimes 25 minutes, sometimes 40-minute, depending on how much we want to yap. So here we are. Carter, let's get right into it, my man. I guess before we really kick things off, a little bit of a crazy time here for the two of us. I mean, again, we're Vancouver Canucks fans. They didn't make the playoffs, but hometown team, the Winnipeg Jets, in there. They are battling right now with St. Louis 2-2 series. And we got a whiteout party to go to on Wednesday night. That's going to be a lot of fun. We're trying to get in some golf rounds. We're watching Blue Jays games where baseball is going to get started up for us right away. It is a fun time, but a crazy time on top of work and school and sort of everything else, eh?
Oh, it absolutely is. But when it's warm outside, I cannot complain whatsoever, especially when you have, plus 19, plus 20 weather in April. You got to enjoy your, 2 weeks of summer you get in Canada. So we're obviously going to do that. And the Jets haven't won since Locked On Boys have been to a street party. So maybe that is the key to the Jets' success, because games 1 and 2 were a whole lot different than games 3 and 4 for the Jets. But obviously we'll move back onto the baseball. Before we go into the hot or not, I just want to know how you're feeling after this off day. That last off day did make me feel a little bit better. I'm not going to lie, this off day, I feel the exact same. I feel pretty horrific going in this series. Not a lot of confidence. But hopefully, again, we got to be optimistic that things can get turned around. But at what point, again, with this offense, are we going to be like, hey, at some point, we got to realize, is this kind of what the team is? Are you kind of at that point with the offense? Like, how are you feeling after this off day?
Yeah, not good either, to be honest. I was pretty low after that, I guess 8-game span. And yeah, after the last off day, I'm like, you know what? Again, it's not a big enough sample size for me to really be really upset about. Now I'm at the point where I thought they were going to maybe answer back, and they didn't. So now I'm over the hump. I'm still pretty upset, still pretty beaten up by it, I guess. I'm trying to look at the positives, but there's not a lot of positives to look for. In saying that, we do have Daulton Varsho to talk about him coming back to the team, so maybe there's one there, right? We're going to play hot or not. We're going to sort of see who's doing well, who isn't, and I'm going to let you guys in on a little secret. The or not is going to be a big category. The hot ones, we'll see. We'll see. I don't know if you want to kick things off or you want me to kick things off. But I think let's start hot. Let's start on positive note before we really, there's negatives. So, and I probably will get a little upset.
It was definitely a lot easier to find the negatives, unfortunately, with this team than the positives. But don't you guys worry. I do have a fix for the Toronto Blue Jays that I'm going to bring you guys in the second segment. So stick around for that. But we'll start out with some positives. When you look at the Toronto Blue Jays team, if you're looking at positives, you're looking at the pitching. And that's what I'm obviously rolling with this segment. So I'm going to start with Chris Bassitt. I know it's a little bit weird timing because he didn't have it was probably his worst performance of the season, but honestly, it wasn't even that bad. Still had a pretty good performance. Again, the New York Yankees lineup is one of the best in all of baseball. Aaron Judge is a home run off Chris Bassitt. I mean, like, what are you going to do? Unfortunately, it's Aaron Judge. I think he's the best hitter on the planet right now. So it's, again, you gotta not necessarily assume that's going to happen, but you can't be surprised if it does happen. But overall with Chris Bassitt, he has been very good this year. The command has been a lot better than it was in 2024. Right now, they're playing a more meaningful baseball than they were for the majority of last year. But again, the way things are trending, we'll have to see how that does work out. We could tell Chris Bassitt at the end of 2024, just his mental he was out of it. He wasn't mentally still in the ball game. He didn't, at this point, he's 35 years old. He was 35 at the time, 36 years old now. He doesn't care about the stats at this point. He just wants to win, and the winning got taken away from him at the end of 2024, so he stopped caring about his performance. At least that's what it looked like from the outside perspective. I know we've talked about that on the podcast before, but the command is right back this year. He's using his curveball so well. I know you didn't like that high curveball. He's really gone away from that. We haven't really seen a lot of high curveballs from Chris Bassitt. He's using it lower in the zone, which is more traditionally going to lead to success for a pitcher. And the greatest thing about this curveball is that he's playing it so well off his fastball. Chris Bassitt's not blowing you away with velocity. He's not throwing 98. He's not throwing 95. Sometimes you're lucky if he throws 93, honestly. He's hitting normally 90 to 91, but he's still getting late swings on that fastball because he's so good at pitch tunneling. He's so good at keeping hitters on their toes. And that is one thing that Chris Bassitt has done very well this year, obviously. And he just approaches at bats like it's a chess match. He's not just throwing a pitch just like as a waste pitch. He has a plan, and everything is calculated for every single pitch that Chris Bassitt throws. Just a master of the game. And it's been a lot of fun watching the Hound on the mound dominate early on in the season.
I couldn't agree with you more. I mean, Chris Bassitt, I know you were on the Chris Bassitt train even since last year. I got a little bit and we had conversations about this, about him, the care that there was at the end of last season, but I don't blame him. That is tough. It was a tough season for the entire team, but I think as a pitcher that's going out there and trying to give their best stuff every day, it's probably hard. So I don't really take that much away from that. I think he's had an incredible start to the season, and I hope that continues for him. But in saying that, I'm going to keep on the pitcher trend, and I'm going to go with one of my hots as well. And a guy I think there will be no argument here that why he's in the hot category, and that is Jeff Hoffman, a guy who has absolutely dominated. He has been fantastic. I suggest that you guys go check out his Baseball Savant page. It is a sea of red, an absolute sea of red. He has been so solid in every single category when you look at pitching. You can talk about fastball velo, average exit velo, chase rate, whiff rate, K percentage, walk percentage, barrel percentage, hard hit percentage. It's all like upwards of 85th percentile. That's his lowest percentile. So he's been absolutely unbelievable. And the other thing that I've really enjoyed about watching Jeff Hoffman is how he uses his pitches. And Carter, you talked about that with Chris Bassitt. But for me, it's a little bit even different with Jeff Hoffman. He uses his four seam, which then plays into his splitter, where he uses, his slider, sorry. His fastball plays into his slider, which I really like. Where he puts the fastball then dictates where he's going to put the slider. And the other thing is where he uses the split finger pitch also correlates to where he once in a while will throw in the sinker as well, and where he then plays the split finger off the slider, off the sinker, off the fastball. It's all very calculated. And I went over and I looked at his hot zones, Carter, and that's something that really caught my eye. And you can see it in a game, some guys more than others. I mean, you look at Paul Skeens, a guy that does his pitch tunneling so well. It is like nothing I've ever seen when it comes to Paul Skeens. That guy might be the king of pitch tunneling. But Jeff Hoffman is right there. Watch the way he sets up an at-bat is just amazing. It's so good. The arm angle of where he comes out from compared to where the pitch ends up, and you don't always know what it's going to be. I've really, really enjoyed watching Jeff Hoffman this year. And I think, looking at what the Jordan Romano situation in Philly, I think you couldn't be more ecstatic to have this guy as your closer for your baseball team.
Yeah, when you're looking at how things could have turned out with obviously the underlying stats that Jordan Romano does have, I mean, if we were having Jordan Romano, trotting out there every other day, kind of with the Devin Williams situation in New York, this team is already, struggling to win games right now. It probably would be a whole lot worse if you don't have Jeff Hoffman coming out. And I have a take kind of on Jeff Hoffman. It's not necessarily just specifically about Jeff Hoffman. I don't think it's a hot take whatsoever, but a little bit of credit to Matthew Smith, obviously, that he was early on this take, is that I don't think I'm not going to say you can't be successful, but it's very hard to be successful in the MLB if you only have 2 pitches. You're obviously, like for Jordan Brown, we'll use this as an example, obviously, because people are familiar with this example. He's a fastball slider guy. But the problem with Jordan Romano was that sometimes he didn't have the fastball command, or sometimes the slider wasn't breaking properly. So then it kind of turned him into a 1-pitch pitcher because he was having trouble with the other pitch. And then all you had to do as a hitter is just sit on the pitch that he was throwing more often, the pitch that was actually working for him. At least now with Jeff Hoffman, he's got 4 pitches. He's got that sinker, he's got the split finger, the slider, and the fastball. If somehow that slider's not on, he still does have that split finger fastball and that fastball combination that he can work to. So with a lot of these pitchers right now, you don't have to be Chris Bassitt and have 8 pitches. But I think if you have a minimum of at least 3, you do have that option. Just in case one of your pitches is not working on that specific day, you do have some other options, and you still have that ability to keep the hitters guessing at the plate.
Yeah, and I don't want to put this out there like Jeff Hoffman throws a ton of sinkers. He doesn't. That is his least used pitch by a long
he's more of a
shot.
3-pitch guy.
But, it's another wrinkle that you can always throw in, right? If you really, one pitch is struggling, or maybe, hey, 2 of my pitches aren't working well. Okay, maybe you go to the sinker, right? It gives a little bit of an extra wrinkle onto an already guy that has more than your normal closer that might come in with a fastball slider or a fastball splitter combination. So no, you're 100% right there. We got a lot more to get into, Carter. So we just end up yapping. So let's keep this a little tight. But do you have another hot for me, just that we can run through?
Yeah, it's kind of funny that this is the transition that I'm using, because I just said I don't like 2-pitch pitchers, but this is a guy that I think has been good with 2 pitches so far, and it's Mason Fluharty. It's a guy that, again, should have been on this team on opening day. I'm not sure why that didn't happen, but they do obviously end up giving him his chance. Does have the cutter sweeper going right now, and it's working pretty well. His sweeper moves a ton. So much horizontal break on that pitch, and he's being successful right now. That's a low 3s ERA. Again, not a huge sample size necessarily, but for a guy that, again, hasn't had any experience in the major leagues whatsoever, to be doing it with 2 pitches that kind of break in similar fashions, when you have the cutter break in the same way, you have the sweeper break in the same way, and he's still being able to get outs. So I think one thing with Mason Fluharty that obviously I don't think you'll be able to do this midseason, but if he can develop a sinker or just something that moves the other way from these cutters and these sweepers to get a little bit inside on these left-handed hitters, that is going to be so beneficial for a guy like Mason Fluharty. Again, you can't necessarily do that this year, and it's working so far, and you don't need Mason Fluharty in high leverage. But I think to take that next step, if he did add a sinker, again, screwball would be perfect, but so high, it's not a fair expectation. They'll get somebody to grab a screwball and just throw it into their arsenal. But if he grabs one more pitch and throws it in there, I think Mason Fluharty can be very good for a very long time.
I absolutely couldn't agree more. That's one thing that stood out to me, is everything's breaking in, right? If you're a everything's coming at you, and you can't have that. You got to have something that goes the other way, or just another pitch that's usable. And I think, especially when you're not in a closing role, that's something that you really need to develop. So I think that can help him a lot. So that is a great addition. And Carter, for my last hot here, I'm going to go with Bo Bichette. Again, I think he hasn't been exceptional. I think you want him to get a couple extra base hits and some home runs, obviously, and up the power. That is one, something that's been evading him, is the average exit velocity and the barrel percentage. But for the most part, the guy's doing what you need him to as the setup man, right? He's getting on base. He's putting a runner on for the big dogs to eat. And the problem is just the big dogs aren't eating. So again, yes, you want him to be better, but I think for the most part, Bo Bichette has given this team an opportunity to be able to drive in runs, and especially the 3 guys in Anthony Santander, Vladimir Guerrero Jr., and George Springer, that you want to be able to drive in runs, and they're just not doing it. And I got to give George Springer a little bit of credit. He's started out the season pretty good, so good on him. But the other 2 guys, I mean, they need to step it up. Yes, over the weekend we got a Vlad home run and we got a Santander home run, but it was single shots. You need runners on base. And at the time, and maybe this goes against what I just said about Bo, but I think for the most part, everybody can see that Bo has been doing a good job of getting on base. It's timely hitting, and the timely hitting hasn't been there for this team. So
Yeah, that has been one of the biggest problems, obviously, for the Toronto Blue Jays. Bichette, the way he's playing this season, is like the traditional kind of leadoff hitter. Obviously, he's not walking as much as like a traditional leadoff hitter that you would want, but he's just slapping singles all over the place. The 292 average, he is getting on base, lower OPS, it is under 700, which in theory, like if you're looking at a traditional leadoff hitter, you should be able to have the power, the ability to drive runners in with your second hitters, your third hitters, your fourth hitters, your fifth hitters. But like you said, we're not really getting that right now. So with Bichette getting on base, and then he's just kind of getting stranded out there a lot of the time, or he's coming up in situations where he does have runners on first or runners on second. And again, he's hitting a hard line drive into the outfield. So it's at best scoring that guy from second. But even then, that's kind of a tough play because Bichette's hitting the ball so hard, it's getting to the outfield quickly. And unless it's, Miles Straw, it has to be a quicker guy out there. If you have Alejandro Kirk on second base, there's no way this guy is obviously scoring. So if the offense was better, if the other guys around him were playing better baseball, I think this would be fine for Bichette right now. Obviously, you do want to start seeing that slugging percentage go up. You do want to start seeing the doubles. He hasn't hit a home run in over 50 games. That is definitely an issue. But Bichette offensively isn't necessarily the main cause of this offensive struggle that we have been seeing. But with the Toronto Blue Jays, unfortunately, we went over some positives. We did have something to talk about that was positive. But there is a lot of negatives that we do want to go into. Some people that, unfortunately, we do have to call out. And we will get into all that coming up. Today's episode is sponsored by Wonderful Pistachios. Looking for a snack that's both delicious and nutritious? Crack into a good source of protein with Wonderful Pistachios. Wonderful Pistachios is one of the highest protein nuts. Each 1 ounce serving has 6 grams of protein, giving you over 10% of your daily value. Plus, they're packed with fiber and better for you unsaturated fats to help you keep feeling fuller longer. I've been loving the Wonderful Pistachios right now, the no shells varieties. It's been the perfect golf course snack. Obviously, if you guys have been watching the podcast, I have been golfing a ton. And it's hard to eat a lot of things on the golf course. Obviously, you have a golf glove on a lot of the time. Your hands are dirty, especially, when you're like me and you're looking for balls in the bushes all the time. So Wonderful Pistachios has been perfect. I can just get the bag, pour a few into my mouth and still feel energized on the golf course and still feel satiated when I'm out there. Another great factor about Wonderful Pistachios is that they are a complete protein and they provide all 9 essential amino acids. Get snacking and get cracking with a snack that packs a protein punch. Visit wonderfulpistachios.com to learn more. That's wonderfulpistachios.com to learn more.
So, Carter, we went over some guys that are hitting hot or doing well this season or pitching well. I mean, that's pretty much where we were. But some guys that aren't doing quite as well. I mean, where do you want to start? I think, you know what, you kicked off the hot or not, so I'm going to kick off the not version of this. And it's a guy that started out the year well, and now it's not so much. So I am going to go with Andrus Gimenez. Yeah, this is sort of what me and you expected in the offseason that was going to happen. I was happy with what he did at the start of the year, but if you can't keep that going, and we don't need home runs from Andrus Gimenez, but something would be good. So I don't know. At the end of the day, right, you didn't get him for his offense, but you can't have 6 guys in this lineup that are there for their defense. And especially with Daulton Varsho coming back, you're hoping his bat heats up. We'll get into that right away. But Carter, for the most part, Andrus Gimenez has to be better.
Yeah, he has to be a whole lot better. And obviously, we're not expecting him to have that Baltimore Orioles and then the first game of that national series. I'm just going to go over his March stats and compare it to the April stats. Obviously, March is an extremely low sample size, and this is when Andrus Gimenez did hit 3 home runs in 5 games. So again, this isn't necessarily what we're expecting, but the April stats is where there is some cause for concern. So looking at him in March, he had a 333 average, 455 on base, 944 slugging for a 1399 OPS. Obviously, that was not what we were expecting from Andrus Gimenez. Honestly, if you kind of cut that in half, maybe give him a little bit more points, that's something that I probably would have been okay with. The low 700 OPS is something that I'd be all right with from a guy like Andrus Gimenez. But in April, the at-bats have just kind of gone to crap because it has not been fun to watch this guy in the month of April. 43 average with a 274 on base, a 304 slugging. Oh, sorry, I'm reading the wrong thing here. 143 average, 232 on base. There we go. 167 slugging. I was going to say, even that 304 slugging looked too good for the month of April. 167 slugging for a 399 OPS in the month of April. This is a guy that was hitting in the cleanup spot for the majority of this month. You wonder why the Toronto Blue Jays weren't scoring a lot of runs when your number 4 hitter was debatably the worst hitter in the month of April for this baseball team.
Yeah, it's just, I mean, it's sort of a joke, right? Who would have thought, at the beginning of the year, we thought, well, maybe they know something we don't. But maybe they were riding the hot hand from spring training, and he looked okay in spring training. So maybe they thought, hey, we can throw him there. And okay, fair enough. You got it to work for a little bit. They made a fast move of getting him out of that spot. So I gotta commend John Schneider on that decision. Carter, and I'm just going to stick with the hitting here. Another guy for me, and I'm trying to run through this because we do still have a lot to get to. Alan Roden for me, got another guy that's just hasn't done. He didn't have the best March, and he's having a worse April. So again, it's just a guy that cannot hit the high fastball. I don't know if it's the David Schneider effect. I don't know if it's young guys coming up that just have never learned how to hit a high fastball, but that's the case here with Alan Roden as well. Just again, it's hard to know what to expect from him, right? You think that his first year in the majors, you're wondering what he can do, and it's not much. And I feel like we have too many guys on this team that are in the same position that they weren't top prospects, even if they were. How does those stats transfer over to the majors? And can he be a good hitter in the major leagues? Maybe. But it's also the same factor that happens with Davis Schneider, is that they come into the league, the guys don't got a book on them, they're pitching to them how they're pitching to them, they might have a good start, and then it sort of goes down the drain. So interesting to see what's going to happen with Alan Roden throughout the rest of the year as well.
This might be a guy that obviously there is some roster moves coming up. They did end up sending Jonathan Colossus down. That was one of the moves, but obviously Daulton Varsho is coming back. So they're going to have to send somebody else down again, he's been struggling a little bit recently with Aston Barger with the power profile. They want to keep this guy playing every day. So if you're going to keep him playing every day, whether it's in the major leagues, whether it's in AAA, make sure he is playing every day. This could be a guy that you send down to kind of get that confidence back. If he starts raking again in AAA, I would have no problem again pulling up that left-handed bat in Alan Roden. But we always talk about this. Confidence is such a big thing for young players. It doesn't look like Alan Roden is necessarily the most confident out there right now. For my guy, that is not very hot right now. I know he did have a good game on Friday, but Alejandro Kirk has been a struggle to watch. He has a 64 weighted runs created plus. The average is 100. It has not been a good year for Alejandro Kirk. Just going over the stats here again, it's 27 games, still kind of a small sample size, but I think now it's starting to kind of allude to how these guys have started. 27 games is about what we're getting close to getting 20% of the year. So, I mean, you can't obviously just scoff over these stats because 20% of the year is a big portion of the year. You got to be playing good baseball at all times. So Alejandro Kirk, 2025 stats so far, 241 average. The on-base percentage is what is hurting me right now. It's only a 274. And this is supposed to be a guy that knows the zone very well. It's supposed to be a guy that is a contact hitter, a guy that's not strike out a ton, a guy that is patient at the plate. And I feel like we haven't really been seeing that from Alejandro Kirk. And I'm not sure if this is because of the rest of the lineup. Maybe Alejandro Kirk thinks that the other guys aren't firing. Maybe he thinks he has to do more than he's supposed to do, but it has not been working for Alejandro Kirk right now. And then just with runners in scoring position thing, I don't even have to look at the stats. This guy's a pop-up machine when there is runners on base. And it is very frustrating to watch. Thank God he did hit that double off Devin Williams. But unfortunately, just the way things have been going, for Devin Williams, I think that's more of a Devin Williams kind of sucks rather than Alejandro Kirk just kind of all of a sudden figured things out. So he has been very good defensively, but at this point with this team, I don't think we care too much about the defensive stuff. I think we want some offense. And Alejandro Kirk has been one of those guys that has unfortunately been very good. Well, fortunately been very good at defense, but unfortunately has not picked it up with the bat since his 2022 season.
Yeah, we need Alejandro Kirk. He was one of our bounce back candidates. And so far, we have not seen that. And you're hoping he can pick it up because he's, like we said, he is an everyday guy. And Tyler Heineman has been playing very well with his bat, surprisingly, in the games that he's been getting into. But at the end of the day, you want Alejandro Kirk to be your guy. And you need him to be. Like all these guys, I think it's a problem all around this baseball team is you need your everyday players to start hitting the baseball. If you want to talk about Vladimir Guerrero Jr., if you want to talk about Anthony Santander, you want to talk about Kirk, you want to talk about Jimenez, you want to talk about, Varsho when he gets going. All these guys, we need to be hitting the baseball. Otherwise, this is going to be a very long season for this Toronto Blue Jays team.
Yeah, I got one more quick thing to add about Alejandro Kirk, and then I have my last, obviously not for the day. It's just his splits right now versus lefties and versus righties. Right now, Alejandro Kirk against lefties is hitting 353 with a 353 on base as well. 588 slugging for a 941 OPS. Obviously, lefties aren't as thrown as often as you do get righties. So, unfortunately, Alejandro Kirk is really struggling against righties in 2025. 210 average, 254 on base, 242 slugging for a 496 OPS. he just doesn't have a chance, unfortunately, right now against right-handed hitters, and it has not been fun to watch. Maybe it's a little bit crazy, obviously, and I'm not going to say this is actually what they're going to do, but with Tyler Heineman, the way he's playing, you might have to start leaning towards Tyler Heineman and play this hot hand. I'm not sure if they're necessarily going to do that. I don't think they should do that, but I do honestly think they should be playing Tyler Heineman a little bit more right now because he is playing so well, and Alejandro Kirk, again, not exactly doing what you want him to do. But my last one for this is just literally the entire offense. I wanted to single some more people out, but I looked at pretty much everybody other than, I guess, again, Tyler Heineman, George Springer, Bichette, whatever. This offense has been horrific. It has been absolutely horrific to watch, especially in the last 7 days. But honestly, this entire season, it has not been that fun. And just from the power perspective, I just went through some of the league leaders in home runs. Obviously, if you've been watching the Toronto Blue Jays, the team leader in home runs, there's two of them actually. It's Andrus Jimenez, who hasn't home run in April, and it's Anthony Santander, who is at 3 home runs. These are some of the guys that have more home runs than, honestly, well, you combine Vladimir, Santander, and Bo, they have more home runs, a lot of these guys, than all three of them combined. Jordan Beck would tie those guys at number 5 with 5 home runs. Matt Mervis has 7 home runs. I brought this up in the last episode. Trent Grisham has 7 home runs. And Dylan Moore has 6 home runs. Dylan Moore, not a bad baseball player, but he has 58 home runs in 1,504 at-bats. And this guy has more home runs than Vladimir Guerrero Jr., Anthony Santander, and Bo Bichette combined. It's just not going to work long-term when you're not hitting the long ball, especially if somehow this team ends up making the playoffs with this offense. There might be a thing where we see the Minnesota Twins series and might not even get 1 run in a series, in a wild card series. So the offense, we're going to keep harping on it until it gets better because it is a massive problem and you can't overlook it right now.
No, you can. And I think we've said our piece. If you watch yesterday's episode, we've said our piece on this offense. But yeah, Carter's absolutely right. There's just something has to change. Something has to give at some point, and hopefully it comes sooner than later. But, we're going to have to wait and see. Carter, we were going to talk about Daulton Varsho being back, but we are to have a series to preview. We have Daulton Varsho to talk about. I guess let's fit it in here when we can. Daulton Varsho should be back. And how important is that, Carter, to you, I guess, specifically? Do you think he's going to come in and make this mountain of a difference? Or do you think, where do you sit right now with Daulton Varsho?
Yeah, Daulton Varsho, definitely not going to be the savior. I don't think anyone is necessarily thinking he's going to be the savior, but I do think he is not going to go against the power thing. Daulton Varsho is predominantly more a power hitter than he is an on-base guy. So right now, I was looking at the Fangraphs projections. They have him projected with hitting 20 home runs in about 130 games. If that's what Daulton Varsho does, I'm honestly not going to complain too much about that. I'm not sure if anyone's going to hit 20 home runs right now. So if we can get 20 home runs from Daulton Varsho, I think that's going to be something that I can get on board with. This would be, I have a little bit of stats here, which would be my ideal season for Daulton Varsho. It might be reaching a little bit, but this team needs it right now. They need this from Daulton Varsho. It's not crazy, but this might be a little bit, ask for a little bit too much, especially with all things considered. But I said 235 average with Daulton Varsho, 750 OPS. That's where I think I might be asking a little bit too much. But I'm going to go with those 20 home runs. If he can just do that, again, I don't think this is necessarily like the craziest thing ever, but it might be a little bit over the top. But that's all I want with Daulton Varsho. Honestly, at this point, Daulton Varsho could hit 100, 150. If he wants to hit 30, 35 home runs, screw the average, drop the shoulder, just sell out for the power.
Yeah. It's almost to the point where that's what we are looking for. That's what this team needs. You need the power, and you have to bring what you can. And so hopefully Daulton Varsho can do something. And it's hard to know what to expect. But again, we've seen it in spring training. We've seen it in AAA. We just need it. We need it so badly. And I'm so excited for Daulton Varsho to be back. I mean, I know you have his jersey, Carter. And so hopefully there's a little magic in Daulton Varsho that when and you know what, to be honest with you, even having Daulton Varsho, diving for balls out in the outfield, it's just going to do something to me. So I'm excited to have him back. Hopefully we can keep this going and Daulton Varsho can bring a couple wins to this baseball club. But we do have a series to preview, so we're going to take a quick break. We're going to get into all of that. Sort of a crazy day. There was a lot we wanted to talk about, and you don't get too many off days where you can have these longer conversations. Thankful for a couple off days, that's for sure. We'll be right back to preview this series. Today's episode brought to you by FanDuel. The NBA playoffs are almost here, and FanDuel is giving new customers an incredible way to get in on the action. Right now, when you join FanDuel and place your first $5 bet, you'll get $250 in bonus bets if your bet wins. I've told this to everybody. The bonus bets are unbelievable because it's almost like no stake, right? You place your first $5 bet. You hope you got to make sure you win that. So make sure you take something that's a lock. I don't know what is a lock. I can almost tell you it's not Toronto Blue Jays games right now. Bet on something that you know is a lock. Get those $250 in bonus bets and make some money off of those bonus bets. I'm a big live game parlay guy, so I like to see what's going on and know sort of the action that I'm betting on. So I would suggest that. But again, do what you want to do. It's your betting account. It's for fun anyway. Have some fun with your buddies or whoever you're watching games with. Place a quick bet on FanDuel. It is the premier place to place your bets. Don't miss out. Head to FanDuel.com and claim your $250 in bonus bets today. So, Carter, series to preview the Toronto Blue Jays versus the Boston Red Sox. I don't know what to think of this one. I'm going to give a quick rundown on the pitching matchups for this one. So, game one on today, obviously, is Newcomb versus Francis. Crochet versus Berrios, and Thursday, I don't have this one, actually. I know it's Tanner Houck, and I'm not sure what the Blue Jays are going to do quite yet. Still, I'm not sure if you have it.
I'm thinking what they're going to end up doing is I think they're going to slide Berrios to actually that third game, and then that second game is probably going to be a bullpen day with something combined with maybe a Paxton Schultz if he's ready. Yariel Rodriguez will probably throw in that game. You might get Josh Walker in that game. So that will be compromised of some sort of bullpen day from the Toronto Blue Jays. So whether it is the second or third game, one of those games will be a bullpen day against the Boston Red Sox. Hopefully it's not the Garrett Crochet day because, I mean, I don't like our odds, honestly, with that. But, hey, I mean, we're in a rough spot, obviously, with this fifth rotation spot. But the way the Toronto Blue Jays are playing, I brought this up on the Monday episode. In the last 7 games for the Toronto Blue Jays, they scored 12 runs. In the last game the Boston Red Sox played, they scored 13 runs. So not boding too well for the Toronto Blue Jays right now. I guess they do return to the Rogers Center. So I guess that is a little bit of a positive. But it is tough to be positive about this team right now. I'm going to throw it over to you to start with your series prediction.
Yeah, it's a tough one right now. I mean, I always want to predict a Blue Jays win. But I think, you know, the last series I didn't. I said 2-1, got that one right. Little pat on my own shoulder there. I'm going to go 2-1 as well. And I don't know. I think I'm going to have to go the Tanner Houck game because Houck has been – I've had him on my fantasy team. He's horrible, dude. He's so bad. So if the Blue Jays are going to take advantage of anybody, I hope it's him because he's pained me enough through this entire fantasy year so far that I'm now hoping that the Blue Jays can capitalize. So I'm going 2-1 Red Sox, but the Blue Jays get the win against Tanner Houck in game 3.
Yeah, I mean, what a Blue Jays thing it would do, honestly, with your fantasy team as well. Toronto Blue Jays they bring back Tanner Houck, the 2024 Tanner Houck, the All-Star, probably goes 7 innings pitch, 3 hits and then 0 earned runs. Garrett Crochet, Bowden Francis is that first game, so we won't have to worry about a bullpen day against Garrett Crochet, obviously. But I do think the Boston Red Sox do have the pitching matchups in this series. I think they have the better matchups. The way the offense is playing, I just can't see the Blue Jays winning a series right now. Like, there's nothing that they've done over the last few games that have said, like, hey, we might turn it around soon. We'll get some flashes here. Maybe we'll get the power. Other than maybe Santander hitting a home run. I guess you got home runs from Vladimir and Santander in a series, but they were solo shots. Not going to get too excited about that. I have to go series loss here. They're going to lose 2 out of 3, I think, here again. I think they're going to win that second game. I think somehow they're going to find a way to win that game, even though it's probably the one that looks the worst on paper. But that is going to be the Toronto Blue Jays way. I don't think they're going to figure out, unfortunately, over this weekend. But like I said in the first segment, I do have a fix for this Toronto Blue Jays team. And Braden loves when I do this, obviously. So there is a very obvious thing on the Toronto Blue Jays. There's a lack of power. One guy, a little bit of a different sport, obviously, but I think we got to get a little bit creative with the Toronto Blue Jays team. It's not working out too well. There is a guy that hits a pretty long golf ball, and it is Happy Gilmore. The Toronto Blue Jays, I know you can't leave the box. We got to start playing. We got to get physics on our side here. We need the momentum. Start stepping into the ball. Take a couple steps. Get the momentum in there. Absolute power swings. Happy Gilmore did it. The Toronto Blue Jays could do it. And you might ask, hey, like, you probably don't want to be moving it in the box, when people are throwing 95, 100. The Toronto Blue Jays look like they're playing dizzy bat at the plate right now. Like, it can't get that much worse if they're going to start pulling up some Happy Gilmores. Got to get creative. Something's got to change. Pull up the Happy Gilmore.
Carter texts me once in a while, and he's like, hey, I got a segment or a piece I want to throw in here, and I think it'll fix the Blue Jays. And I just, at this point now, text him. I'm like, it's going to be something absolutely ridiculous.
That is literally going to work. It's a foolproof plan.
It's
It
going to
can't
be
go wrong.
me. It's going to be me trying to hit a ball over the fence in softball with the full on wind up. I'm going to slip, fall, break something, pop a rib out. I don't know.
See, at least it would be more entertaining to watch, though. We'd have a lot more fun watching Happy Gilmore swings than the at-bats the Toronto Blue Jays are having right now. I'm just doing this for the fans' mental health right now. That's what we need.
You know what? I'll give you that one. I'll give you that one because if I see Vladdy doing a double step to try to hit the Vladdy's two-stepping at the plate pretty much to hit the baseball.
See, at least now if Vladdy's going to swing at a pitch that's in the other batter's box, if he's doing the Happy Gilmore, like you can't get mad at that, right? Like you're going to get mad if he's just taking that swing, but it's Happy Gilmore, man. Like you can't get mad at the Happy Gilmore. You got to respect the effort.
Carter, every time you're hitting a golf ball out there and you do a Happy Gilmore, it does brighten my day just a slight bit. So you're right. Maybe that's what this team needs. If you can't win games, start having some fun out there. This team is very good at having fun. I'll tell you that.
I don't even know if you could say that. I don't think there's been a lot of fun things that have been happening with the Toronto Blue Jays in this last little bit, especially from a fan perspective. It's this bad for us. I can't imagine they're having a whole lot of fun, not scoring any runs and losing baseball games as well. But again, it is, I guess the spin zone it's still April. How long are we going to be saying that for? I guess only a couple more days because we're getting closer to May. But at some point, we can't say it's still early. They are going to have to figure it out. Or we might have to have the very unfortunate discussion again, kind of going with the 2024 terms. They can't turn this offense around. I can't imagine they're going to be over 500 at the trade deadline. It is still early, but they got to prove something sooner than later. The schedule does get a little bit easier coming up, but you got to start taking advantage of baseball games, especially these AL East baseball games against AL East opponents like the Boston Red Sox, who are ahead of you in the standings. Way too early to look at the standings, but these games do end up mattering at the end of the day.
Yeah.
Just want to say thank you guys for watching. Obviously, the likes, comments, subscriptions, all the support recently has been much appreciated. Braden, you got anything else to add before we do kind of take off for this episode?
No, man, no. It's an off day again. We sort of ran through a lot here, and we know we just don't get a lot of time to just talk about sort of what we have on our minds outside of the games and sort of the storylines that are within those games. So it's nice to get an off day and be able to have this chance. Hopefully, you guys appreciate it as well. Make sure you guys do hit that subscribe button. Carter says it. I've said it. It really does help us out a ton. And we're trying to grow here. We're trying to, be the place that people come to get their Blue Jays info. And we love seeing the comments you guys leave. So make sure you guys do that as well. And we'll talk to you guys tomorrow.